Welcome to the Prophecy Club. We're going to continue talking with Bill Federer today. And in case you have not heard, he's going to be speaking at the Spirit of Prophecy Church Prophecy Club. That is October the 6th. That's on a Saturday. He's going to be making 3 DVDs. Doors will open at 10. Speaking times will be from 11 to 1, 2 to 4, and 5 to 7. And then the TV program will be taped after that. Then Sunday morning, he's going to be speaking also at Spirit of Prophecy Church Prophecy Club, same location, same room. Sunday morning, 9:30, and Bree Keaton, Sunday morning, 10:30. Now, the 3 topics on the Saturday are Change to Chains. We made 2 broadcasts on that. Go to prophecyclub.com to listen to them. We're about to talk on Islamic Conquest, Past and Present. Bill Federer, welcome back to the Prophecy Club.
Hey, great to be with you, Stan.
Okay, tell us about Islam. First question, is it really a religion of peace?
Yes, it is. There is, though, a different definition of the word peace. Our definition of the word peace is different groups learning how to get along. Their definition of peace is when the whole world submits to the will of Allah, there will be peace. So in other words, to them, world peace means world Islam. Peace is their goal. They want to establish world Islam. Muhammad divided the world into 2 halves. One is the half that has submitted to Allah. It's called the Dar al-Islam, the House of Islam. The other half of the world is the half that is in the process of submitting to Allah. It's called the Dar al-Harb, or the House of War. So there's supposed to be war in the non-Muslim world because the war is the process of transitioning the world to become the House of Islam. And once the whole world becomes the House of Islam, there's peace. There's nobody left to fight. Now, Muhammad is the perfect Muslim. His life is the DNA. So today, Muslims that want to be better Muslims or more devout Muslims, they want to be like Muhammad. His life is the Sunnah, which means the way or the example. So just like Christians want to be like Jesus, they want to be like Muhammad.
Well, you could say that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and you can say that Muhammad is the wrong way or the lie and the death.
Well, it's important to understand that Christians want to imitate Jesus, but you don't go to heaven by imitating Jesus. You go to heaven by believing that Jesus was the sacrificial lamb, that he gave his life to pay for all your sins, and he died on the cross and rose from the dead. So you're saved because you believe that he paid for your sins. But out of gratefulness and because you love him so much, you want to try to follow his example. Not so in Islam. Islam, they think their salvation is based on how closely they imitate Muhammad. And so there is the Quran, which is private revelations that Muhammad got. There is the Hadith, and most of Sharia law comes from the Hadith. These are stories remembered about Muhammad from his wives and warriors. And there's 60,000 Hadiths that say what side he slept on and how he cupped his hands and what direction he, to use when you're using the restroom, and I mean all these different hadiths. And then there's the Sirat, or the biography of Muhammad, which puts his life in chronological order, written about 100 years after his death. The Quran, the Hadith, and the Sirat, that is where the Sharia law comes from. And then there are 1,400 years of Islamic scholars interpreting the Quran, the Hadith, and the Sirat. All that together is Sharia law, and all that together is what Muslims want to do to follow Muhammad's example, because they think the closer they follow his example, the better chances they have of getting into paradise. Even Muhammad did not know where he was going to go. He said, though I'm the prophet of Allah, I do not know what Allah will do with me.
Hey, I can answer that question.
Well, the promise for Muslims, the promise of paradise is only if they die in jihad, killing innocent non-Muslims. So Muhammad's life is the DNA. And so if we want to know get an insight into the minds of Muslims today that are trying to follow Muhammad, we need to look at the guy that they're following. So if we take a magnifying glass, zoom in on Muhammad's life, it falls into 3 categories. The first is he was a religious leader in the pagan city of Mecca for 12 years and only made 70 converts. He gets a little frustrated that not a whole lot of people are joining, and so he gets new verses from his Allah telling him to warn the infidels of judgment. So he hangs around the Kaaba, this square building in Mecca, and he tells these pagans that they're going to burn in hell. And these pagans interpret him as disrupting the peace of their city. And so they chase Muhammad out of town in the year 622 A.D. This is called the Flight the Hijra. It is year 1 in the Muslim calendar. Our year 1 is the year Jesus was born, and their year 1 is this flight, the Hijra, 622 A.D. So Muhammad goes to Medina, which was a Jewish city, 210 miles to the north of Mecca. And the Jews are nice enough to let him in as an immigrant, as a refugee, right? He needs a place to stay out, from the desert. And he presents his faith to the Jews. And they listen, but they reject him. And they said, "You're not a prophet in the line of our Jewish prophets." And so he goes into the minority pagan neighborhoods in Medina, and he begins to get a little following, sort of acting like a community organizer, right? He's in there getting a following. And then he goes back to the Jewish leaders, and he presents himself as a new type of politician.
Hey, I know another community organizer that rose to the position of president.
Well, it's interesting. It's a Saul Alinsky tactic. He chronicles it, where you organize those. So the Jews controlled Medina, and these pagan minorities had no voice in this Jewish government. And so Muhammad gets a following, and now he's got a political base. He goes to the Jewish leaders, and he presents himself as a candidate of change. He says, "I'm a newcomer to this city. I can rise above your ancient political partisans." And so the Jews make a treaty with Muhammad, and now he is a political leader as well as a religious leader. Then something happens. Muhammad's followers in Mecca get a little pushy, argumentative, confrontational, and they get chased out of town for disturbing the peace. And Muhammad has the victimhood concept, where because they were intolerant of you're the victims. And therefore you are justified in robbing the caravans that are headed back to Mecca. So where Jesus said, if they take your coat, give them your shirt. If they strike you on one cheek, turn and let them strike the other. Muhammad said, if they strike you, if they chase you out of town, if they're intolerant of you, you retaliate. You attack the caravans that are headed back to Mecca. And so Muhammad gets a whole chapter of the Quran on how to distribute booty from robbing caravans. It's chapter 8, Surah 8. A man with, no wife gets one portion. A man with a wife gets two portions, and it goes through it all. Well, in the year 624 A.D., the Meccans send 1,000 soldiers to protect their caravan. And Muhammad, with 300 warriors, defeats 1,000. This amazing victory at the Battle of Badr in 624 A.D. convinces Muhammad that Allah wants him to be a military leader. And he goes off to fight in 66 battles and raids in the next 8 years before he dies. He leads 27 of them. He even used the catapult when he attacked the city called Al-Taif. And when he was told the catapult was killing innocent women and children, his response was, they are among them. So they got to be killed too. So suicide bombers today, and those in the Middle East today, they think it's okay to kill innocent people to advance Islam, because Muhammad killed innocent people when he used the catapults. And since Muhammad is the perfect Muslim, Muslims today, they want to be better Muslims. They want to be like him religiously, politically, and militarily. So yes, Islam is a religion. It also is a political system, and it is also a military system. And so a mosque is a religious building, a political building, and a military building. Bowing to Mecca is a religious bowing, a political bowing, and a military pledging of allegiance to another capital. And it is impossible to split the religious side from the political military side, because Muhammad was all three. And so we see that Muhammad now won the Battle of Badr in 624 A.D., and he becomes a very successful military leader, primarily because he's creative. He's unconventional. In other words, he does not play by the rules of traditional Arab warfare. For example, these Arabs had 1 month off that was their pilgrimage month. They would go to this city of Mecca, and they'd worship their pagan gods that were all housed in this Kaaba, this square building, and they agreed not to fight for this month of the Ramadan. Well, Muhammad gets verses from his Allah telling him it's okay to rob these caravans during this month, and he comes away with a lot of booty. Well, in the year 627 A.D., Muhammad's been out of Mecca now for 5 years. In 627 A.D., there are 10,000 Meccans and pagans and Jews and nomads, and they are marching toward Medina with their cavalry and their horses and camels. Well, Muhammad's version of roadside bombs and IEDs was he dug potholes and trenches all around the city of Medina, which rendered the superior cavalry of the Meccans useless. You can't charge your horse and camel across a field full of potholes and trenches. They'll break their legs. And so it throws off the whole battle strategy. And so Muhammad goes to some of these tribes and he bribes them and they slip away in the night. He goes to some of the other ones and he threatens them and they slip away in the night. What we refer to as the Chicago politics, the bribe or the bullet. And then it gets freezing cold for a week and the Meccans lose heart and decide to bring their troops home. And when the Meccans retreat and bring all their troops home, instead of the Muhammad and his followers getting peaceful, instead they're emboldened that their enemies were cowards and they could not subdue them. And so Muhammad goes back into the city of Medina. And remember those 3 Jewish tribes in Medina that let Muhammad in 5 years earlier when he was a refugee? Well, and Muhammad made a treaty with them? Well, Muhammad is now in a strong position. He chased away the only people who could rescue these Jews, the Meccans. And so he was in a strong position. He surrounds these Jews. One of the tribes, he confiscates their property and chases them out of town. The second Jewish tribe, he confiscates their property and chases them out of town. He actually picks on the ones the bigger one doesn't like. And they're like, I never liked that tribe, and they had it coming to them. Anyway, this set a precedent in Islam called hudna, which means when you are weak, you make treaties until you get strong enough to disregard them. So when Muhammad first came into Medina as this refugee, and he goes to the neighborhoods and gets a following, and then he goes to the Jews and they make a treaty with him, now it's 5 years later, he's in a strong position and he finds a reason to break the treaties, and he confiscates their property, chases them out of town. Now the third Jewish tribe in Medina, there's nobody left to come to their rescue. They stood by while the other Jewish tribes were chased out. Muhammad surrounds them for 25 days. When they finally surrender, Muhammad brings them into the market and he chops off their heads, 600 or 700 of them. Then he sells the women and children into slavery. And this set a pattern in Islam of slavery. So when you spread something by the sword, what do? Well, you kill people, but what do you do with the ones who surrender? You sell them. So there is an estimated 180 million Africans that were enslaved by Islam. Matter of fact, Muhammad was an Arab. He was white. There are hadiths that say you could see the whiteness of his armpits when he would lift his hands in prayer. And somebody wrote an early morning prayer in the dark and down the streets, and his donkey rubbed up against Muhammad's leg, and he says, I saw the whiteness of the thigh of the prophet. And so Muhammad was white. He owned African slaves. And so the Arab Muslims enslaved these millions of Africans. There's one word in Arabic for African and slave. It's the same word. It's abd, A-B-D. So every African person they say, they call him slave, even to this day. Anyway, then the Muslims enslaved over 1 million Europeans. There were entire Catholic orders in Europe called Trinitarians and Maruthans, and the head of the order was called the ransomer. And they would collect alms and donations across Europe and go under a white flag to North Africa to get your friend back, who was kidnapped from a Greek island or an Italian coast or from Spain or Portugal. Anyway, they even captured one of the pilgrim ships, believe it or not, in 1625. The Pilgrims sent a couple ships back to England with dried fish and beaver skins, and the Muslims captured them in the English Channel, took them to Morocco, and sold them into slavery. So we see that within 5 years of Muhammad immigrating to the Jewish city of Medina, there's not a Jew left in the city of Medina. They've either been chased out, enslaved, or killed. And so we see this pattern is threefold. Sort of like Caesar's 3 steps, Veni, Vidi, Vici, I came, I saw, I conquered. Muhammad's 3 steps was immigrate, increase, eliminate. So he immigrated as a religious refugee, took advantage of the freedom of religion, came in, and then he began to increase the number of his followers amongst the disadvantaged minorities in their neighborhoods. And then he began to eliminate the previous culture. And within 5 years of him coming to the Jewish city of Medina, there's not a Jew left in the city of Medina. So this pattern of immigrating, increasing, and eliminating can be observed over 1,400 years. We see it happening today. Look at France. 751 neighborhoods around Paris that have been completely taken over by 5 million Muslims. The police will not even protect you if you go into these neighborhoods. They're called zonas urbanas sensibles, sensitive urban zones. And so, how did they take over these 751 neighborhoods? Immigrate, increase, eliminate. The first ones came in as immigrants, and they were nice, and they were genuinely nice. And to be honest, most of them do not know their own history, and most of them don't even know their law. Muslim women in many countries are forbidden to even pray. I mean, it's the men that go to the mosque. The women have to stay in the back. Or so if it's their time of the month, their prayers aren't even heard by Allah. And Muhammad said, if a dog, a donkey, or a woman passes between you and Mecca when you're praying, your prayers are invalidated. So, most women don't even know their faith. They just know what they're supposed to do and not do. And most Muslim men, they are not free to read and interpret the Quran by themselves. It's the imam that tells them all of this stuff, and they basically obey what the imam says. And so most of them, they just come in because it's better for their life. So they immigrate, but the natural tendency is that they gravitate together. And once they gravitate together, they form a community. And then they get the imam, and then the imam tells them, okay, you need to start following the Quran closer. Ladies, wear the burqas. Don't be close friends with the infidels. Eat the halal food, not the haram food. And as they build their mosque and become more visible, the people think, gee, my neighborhood is changing. And so the people move out of the neighborhoods, and more Muslims move in, and that's when violence takes place, and there are no witnesses. Because no Muslim will testify against another Muslim on behalf of a kafir infidel. I saw a map once of all the mosques in Europe and how the crime increases around them, and then people move out because of the crime, and more Muslims move in. So it's this very effective strategy. You immigrate, increase, eliminate. You immigrate into the country as a religious person, take advantage of the freedom of religion, and then you increase the number of the followers, and you become more political and more visible, and then you begin to lobby and so forth, and then they move to the violent direction. We see this in England. There's 12 neighborhoods around Paris, Birmingham, Liverpool, Manchester included, where they said, look, these are going to be independent Islamic emirates. We're no longer going to abide by English law in these neighborhoods. And the English can't do anything about it. The number one name for newborns in London is Mohammed.
All right, now let me ask you a question. So we see this happening in America right now. We see Muslims moving in, their smiley face, they're taking over the hotels and the gas stations and things like this. And what do we do to stop it? Now, I know the obvious answer, but I want to get your take on it. What do we do to stop it?
Well, the three phases, religious, political, military. There are Muslims that are just religious. To be honest, they just want to have their life. And to them, they think the world will submit to Allah in the distant, distant future, and they just want to get along with the kafir infidels and have their life. That's fine. That type of Muslim can live in a free democratic society. The fundamental Muslim, on the other hand, they think the world is submitting to Allah now, and they're really excited, and they want to help make it happen. Now, the dilemma for us in the West is the more we bend over backwards in unprecedented ways to show ourselves tolerant of Islam, the more the moderate Muslim begins to rethink and say, wait a second, maybe the world is in fact submitting to Allah now rather than later. So they gravitate from the future peaceful moderate camp into the fundamental now camp, which is the violent something by the sword. So all of our efforts to have Muslims pray on our U.S. Capitol lawn and have Muslim days of prayer observed in the U.S. White House and Muslim postage stamps and all this stuff we think we're showing ourselves really super tolerant, they think this has never happened before. Maybe this is the fulfillment of this goal of the whole world speaking to Allah. And so the peaceful Muslims are gravitating into the camp of the fundamental ones, which is the violent,
right.
So our attitude has been like in a football game. We think, you know what, if we can just let them get a first down and get it out of their system, they'll play nice and let us get a first down. Let's let them get a touchdown, and then they'll finally be nice and they'll let us get a touchdown. We cannot understand how we keep giving up yardage and touchdowns, and we keep seeing that they're getting more enthused and they're filling up the stands, they're being more excited. And so all of our efforts to pull troops out of the Middle East and abandon our allies and all this stuff, they are flipping into a very excited mode.
So the real answer is we've got to return back to Jesus.
Yeah, and I tell people that there's freedom for all religions in America, but Islam is not just a religion. It's a political and a military system because Muhammad was not just a religious leader, he was political and military. And so we have to understand that the religious leader of Islam is fine. Bow any direction you want, pray as many times a day as you want, but once it flips into the political direction, where they have laws that they want to institute in the neighborhoods, and then there's the military direction of violence and killing, It's no different than if the Bloods and the Crips and the MS-13 gang or the Mafia or the KKK comes into a neighborhood and says, you know what, we've taken over the neighborhood, we're going to start having pimps and prostitutes, and we're going to have gangland justice. You can join the gang, but if you leave, we kill you, and all this kind of stuff. And should the police throw up their hands and says, okay, I guess you took over the neighborhood, you can practice your own law there. You know, I mean, the Mafia is sort of, you know, religious. I mean, you watch The Godfather, and they baptize, you know, and the KKK burns crosses. They're sort of religious. So if all you got to do is call yourself a religion and you can take over a neighborhood and have your own laws, cheap. You know, tell that to these gangs. It's important for us to understand. In America, there's freedom for all religions, but not freedom for all political and military systems. We do not believe that you should cut off the hand of a thief because we have an Eighth Amendment that says there shall be no cruel and unusual punishment. We do not believe you should have polygamy. We do not believe that men should beat their wives. We do not believe that men can divorce the wives, but the wives cannot divorce the husbands. And then if the husband divorces a wife, she gets no alimony. She'll never see her kids again. And they can marry 6-year-olds and those that are lower than the age of consent because Muhammad had younger wives. And so we say, wait a second. Once it gets into behavior, you can't do that here. You know, so the religion is fine, but the political military is not fine.
Okay, you're going to be speaking October the 6th, and you folks need to make note of that, October 6th, and he's going to be making 3 DVDs, 3 talks. He's going to be speaking, doors open at 10. He'll be speaking from 11 to 1, 2 to 4, and 5 to 7. Then we'll make a TV program after that. And then Sunday morning, October the 7th, he'll be speaking at the Spirit of Prophecy Church also at 9:30 a.m., and then Bree Keaton will be speaking at 10:30. Now, when he speaks Saturday, he's going to be speaking on 3 topics: Change to Chains, Islamic Conquest, Past and Present, and 32 Miracles in American History in that order. So I'd recommend you come, but the best thing to do would be to get the DVDs, and each one of them value $30 or more, or you can get all 3 of them, the Federer gift offer for a gift of $50, or you can get all of the October speaker DVDs. That's going to be 8 DVDs valued at $240, and we're making them available for a gift of just $150. That is if you call in now. Place your order early, and we'll pay for free shipping. If it gets into October, then you got to pay for the shipping yourself. So I'd recommend you call now if you want to get the free shipping. Now, Bill, what I want you to do is take about 60 seconds and tell them why they need to come and hear these 3 talks.
You do not understand what's going on today until you see the big picture. And past behavior is the best indicator of future performance. You're going to hire somebody for a job. How did they do on their last job? And so we're trying to figure out what's going to happen in the future. Well, people are probably going to act similar to the way they acted in the past. So we've got to know the history there. There's the phrase of the Harvard professor George Santayana: people that do not know their history are condemned to repeat it. Let us learn from history and see. Matter of fact, Jesus said, how is it you can discern the signs of the weather, but you can't discern the signs of the times? Jesus expected us to know the signs of the times, to understand where we fit in world history. It's going to be a fascinating talk, and Stan, I'm just really excited to be coming down there.
And we are excited to have you too, brothers. So let me just say again, it's going to be Saturday, October 6th. Write it down, Saturday, October 6th. 3 DVDs made, doors open at 10. He'll speak from 11 to 1, 2 to 4, and 5 to 7 with a TV program after that. Change to Change, Islamic Conquest, and 32 Miracles in American History. Call 785-266-1112 to place your order, or go online to prophecyclub.com. That is prophecyclub.com, 785-266-1112, the Bill Federer offer or the October speaker gift offer. In the meantime, Bill, thanks for being on with us.
Hey, thank you, Stan. You're tremendous.
We're going to be talking in the next program on 32 Miracles in American History. In the meantime, thank you for listening. Thank you for your prayers and your gifts of support. May God bless. Now from the Prophecy Club, some exciting opportunities for you. The Prophecy Club is having some awesome speakers in October. Friday, October the 5th, is Shane Warren speaking on the storm, judgment, and revival. He says he heard God say, "They divided my land, now I will divide their land." He was also told the dollar will die, major riots will occur all across America, people will demand their entitlements, and he was told that America's judgment arrives in 2020. Saturday, October 6th, it's Bill Federer, 3 DVDs on that Saturday, 11 to 1, 2 to 4, and 5 to 7 p.m. First DVD, Change to Chains, the 600-year quest for global control. Then Islamic Conquest, Past and Present, Muslims' plans for the future. Then 32 Miracles in American History. Then Sunday morning, October 7th, Bill Federer will minister at 9:30 and Bree Keaton will minister at 10:30 at the Spirit of Prophecy Church. Monday evening, October the 8th, Bree Keaton speaking on Rescue Pygmies. God said, go find the pygmies. So a fair-skinned blonde woman went to the deepest, darkest, most dangerous parts of the Congo jungle and found pygmies. She found that they were being eaten by the rebels as food. She will tell some amazing stories of how God allowed her to lead some 45,000 pygmies to the Lord Jesus and the supernatural protection He gave her in the process. Tuesday evening, October the 9th, Maurice Sklar will speak on Revelations for the Midnight Hour. He was a child prodigy with the violin, and in 1985, God began to show him visions of the future. He will share 10 visions of America's fall and the end times. Some of his noted prophecies are, the dollar will lose 30% more and then totally die. All U.S. wealth will be lost overnight. The bride is not ready. Many in the church will awaken and return to Christ. There will be massive riots across America. Many nations will attack Israel. Nukes will be used. Revival will come to the U.S. There will be cities of refuge. Israel will win World War III and get back all of her land, and masses will move to Israel, and the internet will grow evil and oppressive. Friday evening, October the 26th, Daniel Davis will speak on I Saw the Dollar Dead. He is a missionary to Costa Rica and had a 3-part dream. He was shown the death of the dollar and its global impact. All property lines will be dissolved. He was shown the rise of the one world government and the following currency and Agenda 21 being implemented. He was told that communism is actually our greatest enemy. He was shown a multi-headed, multi-crowned dragon will arise. Saturday evening, October 27th, Michael Boldea will speak on the suffering or the glory. Michael is the grandson of Dumitru Duduman, the Romanian pastor that was put on the electric chair twice. And then later, God showed him that the Russians will attack and defeat America with nuclear weapons in one day following an internal revolution. The same angel that spoke to Dimitri now comes to Michael, and Michael says if we focus on the suffering, we will miss on the glory. And the only way to get the glory is through the suffering. He will cover everything from what we expect to see in the physical as well as in the spiritual to the coming persecution, and he's going to discuss the hot topic of pre, mid, and post-tribulation and why going through the tribulation ought not to be the thing believers should fear. He says blood will be on the streets in America before the end of 2012. The meetings are at the Spirit of Prophecy Church, 2540 K Avenue, Suite 100 in Plano. That's on the corner of Park and K in Plano. Doors open at 6, speaking from 7 to 10:30. Suggested gift at the door, $10 per person. There's a $10 suggested gift at the door for each talk, or you can come to all of them for a $50 donation. That's October 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And then Friday, October 26th, and Saturday, October 27th. You can go to prophecyclub.com for more details. The DVD for each speaker is available for a gift of just $30, or you can get all 8 talks valued at $240 for a gift to the ministry of just $150. Call 785-266-1112 to order your DVDs now. That's at the Spirit of Prophecy Church on the corner of Park and K in Plano. Doors open at 6, speaking from 7 to 10:30. See you there! Is Islam a religion of peace? And what is wrong with allowing mosques in America? Does the Bible foretell the future of Islam? Who is the leopard of Daniel chapter 7? Will Islam become a major world power? Will it invade the U.S.? What is Al-Qaeda's 7-step plan to world domination? How does Islam destroy Western countries? Is Islam compatible with the Constitution? Will the Antichrist be a descendant of a Muslim? Is the Antichrist Arab? Who is the beast from the pit? Is Islam's Mahdi also the biblical Antichrist? Where does the Antichrist come from? Find out the answer to these and more questions in my new DVD, Islam in Bible Prophecy. Call 785-266-1112 or go to prophecyclub.com. Order Islam in Bible Prophecy